read just before we receive the Torah, just before we receive Aseret HaDibroth, we are told, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, what exactly is it that he wants of Am Yisrael? Why am I doing this? Why am I giving them the Torah? So he says, say the following to Am Yisrael, Atem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'roi kadosh. I want you to be, or your purpose is to be a mamlechet kohanim and a goy kadosh. Now what is a mamlechet kohanim? Or let's start with the word mamlacha. What is a mamlacha? Literally, we would translate it as a kingdom, correct? In modern parlance, we would say a state, what we call today a state. The word for a state in modern Hebrew is Medina, but the word Medina does not exist in the Tanakh in that sense. In the Tanakh, a Medina is a great walled city, usually a capital city or a regional capital city. That's what it says in Megillat Esther, right? That Ahasuerus ruled over Sheva Esrimu Me'a Medina. What does that mean, Medina? In other words, provinces, each province of which has a provincial capital city, which was a large walled city. And such a walled city was called a Medina, from Milashon Din, because in the Medina you had the courts. That was where you went if you had a grievance. That was where the justice system existed, to whatever extent that it existed. That's where it was. That's for that same reason you have today in Saudi Arabia, and you did in ancient times as well. You had a city called Medina, right? Medina is exactly that, a large, important city where you had some kind of system of justice, courts, from Milashon Din. That's what a Medina is. So in modern Hebrew, Medina is a state. But in the Torah, there's no such word as for state, not Medina, certainly not. The word is mamlacha, because in those days every state was a mamlacha, was a kingdom. You had a king or an emperor at its head. So when it says, Atem tilu mamlechet kohanim, if we were to translate that into modern Hebrew, we would say, Medina shel kohanim. What does that mean, kohanim? In other words, special people who have a special destiny and purpose on this earth, just as Kohanim have a special destiny and purpose. And their purpose is to be a kind of go-between, between Hashem and the people, correct? They do things on behalf of the people. They also were usually the teachers of Torah, the Kohanim, the Leviim. So they have a special purpose to bring Hashem, as it were, down to earth, down to the people. And that is Am Yisrael's purpose on this earth, to be that kind of mamlacha of Kohanim, a people who have this divinely ordained destiny and an obligation, in fact, to bring Hashem down to earth, as it were, and to make these things known to all nations. And a goy kadosh, and a holy nation, a special nation. Or alternately, if you prefer, the pasuk in Sefer Yeshaya, where it says that Hashem chose us to be, first of all, I'm sorry, the pasuk in the Torah, it says, Vatem tiyu li mamlechet. What's that? Atem tiyu li. Li means for my purpose. You are to be for my purpose, and to bring about my plan in the world. You are to be a mamlechet kohanim. And in Sefer Yeshaya it speaks about the Jewish people being an or lagoyim, right? Or goyim nefatich, correct? That's the Jewish people's purpose. And what we need to ask ourselves, particularly now, Erev Shavuot, but really every day of the year, is, yes, we have a state, we have a country. In many ways, the situation of the Jewish people has never been, not for a very, very long time, has not been this good for a very long time, in many respects. But on the other hand, we are also very far, if we are to be honest, we are very, very far from, as a nation, from where we should be. And our country is not the kind of country that the Torah envisaged. And I think that's something that we have to recognize. And my personal feeling is that here, the Haredi world perhaps is a little bit, sees things a little bit more clearly sometimes than the Dati Leumi, the Zionist religious world. In the Zionist religious world, my feeling is that there is altogether too much self-satisfaction with the situation as it is. In other words, people are too pleased and too satisfied and identify too much, that's my feeling, with what is, and think not nearly enough about what should be. Whereas the Haredim tend to do the opposite. They tend to belittle that which is and that which has been achieved, as if essentially nothing has been achieved, which is obviously not true, and focus to a largely, not always correctly, but they focus at least on something else that should be, which isn't. The truth, of course, again, is somewhere not in the middle, not because I like compromises, but because it's in fact the truth has within it components of both these points of view. Yes, we have come so far, but we have to get to this point over here. And how are we going to get from here to over there? That's something that I think neither of those camps really thinks about a great deal in practical terms. And therefore I think we live in a state of confusion, and certainly with a certain lack of direction. I'll end with the following pasuk. It says in Hosea, in the Navi in Hosea, Hem himlichu ulo mimeni. They is referring to the northern kingdom of Israel as opposed to Yehuda. They appointed kings, ulo mimeni. They didn't ask my opinion. They just set up for themselves whoever they chose for whatever reason, or whoever was the more ruthless strong man who was able to place himself on the throne. They adopted and appointed such kings. Well, only many, but that wasn't in consultation with me, as opposed to what the Torah says, that the king, the leader, has to be appointed al pi navi. It says, Har Hashem, it says in the Torah. Right? Hashem has to be part of that process, which is therefore, in other words, by way of a navi. If there's no navi, then the Beit Din HaGadol, that's another discussion. It's another shiur. But Hosea says explicitly, Hem himlichu v'lo mimeni. Hesiru, they appointed sarim, leaders, v'lo yada'ati, but I had nothing to do with it. And the Radak explains in his Perush on that pasuk that it's referring to what we just explained now, that when Jews set up a system of governance and appoint a leadership without taking into account the Torah's position, in other words, what kind of leadership is required and what kind of people are qualified to be leaders of the Jewish people, that itself is a very serious sin. That's an averah gdola ma'od. That's what Hosea is complaining about. So if we're talking about teshuvah on the national level, this I think is where we need to focus our energies and our attention.
The production of these videos and maintaining this channel demands much time and money. If you enjoyed this video, please show your appreciation and support. To make a donation, please go to www.machonshilo.org and press the PayPal button, which appears on the upper right-hand side of the home page. To sponsor a video or purchase Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael, please write us at office@machonshilo.org.